In this module, we're going to introduce you to the mechanics of the margin account associated with futures contracts using an Excel spreadsheet. We're going to use both historical data and simulated data to show you all the various situations that can occur in the margin account. In this module, we're going to walk you through the mechanics of corn futures. I'm going to show you two different worksheets. In the first worksheet, I'm going to show you the mechanics using historical data. In the second worksheet, I'm going to show the same mechanics using simulated data. And the reason I'm looking at two different worksheets because it turns out for the historical data that I used, there's no margin call. And it's important for me to show you how the margin calls work. So we want to consider a situation where an investor is buying one futures contract for 5,000 bushels of corn. So the contract value is 5,000 bushels. The initial margin that this investor is asked to put into the margin account is $16.88, so $1,688. The maintenance margin is going to be $12.50, which is $1,250. And these numbers are going to be scaled by the number of contracts that the investor wants to hold. So for one contract, it's $16.88 as the initial margin and $12.50 as the maintenance margin. And these numbers are taken from the website quoted over here. So on this investor has bought the futures contract with an expiration of March 15th. That's the date over here. And he purchases this contract at February 22nd. On that date, the price of the futures contract was $690.25. So 690.25 cents per bushel. On that day, he put in $16.88 into the margin account. On the next trading date, which turns out to be February 25th, the futures price goes up to 693.50. The investor is holding a long position, so he makes a profit of 163. And how did that come out? It's going to be the dollar amounts converted, the cents converted into dollars. So that's a divide by 100. The number of positions that I hold, 1, times what is the contract value, which is 5,000 bushels, times the difference between the price on February 25th minus the price on February 22nd. And turns out to be $163. That amount gets credited into the margin account. So instead of $16.88 in the margin account, now it's got $18.51. On the next day, it jumps up to $705. He makes $575 profit, which also gets credited into the margin account, and so on. Another profit, another profit, another profit, and now a loss. That loss gets debited from the account. So he has $3,388 here. It gets reduced to $3,326. Now, even though there is a loss, the broker does not ask the investor to put in more money into the margin account. And the broker will not ask this person to put in more money until the value drops below the maintenance margin of $12.50. Makes a profit of $450 and now makes a serious loss of $1,200. But still, the margin account is above the $12.50 minimum margin, and therefore there is no margin call. And so on, it keeps going. And on March 15th, it expires, it's canceled, and the net amount of money that this investor made on this particular investment was $2,013. So $3,701 minus $16.88 is the profit, $2,013. So you made $2,013 profit on just $16.88 worth of investment. So a huge profit, and this is what we were talking about before, that by taking leverage, you can make a huge profit. Here, we're talking about what would happen if there is a forward contract instead of a futures contract. The current price is corn price, not the futures price, was $690 on February 22nd. So the forward price is going to be 690 times the interest divided by 100, and I took the interest rate to be 20.25%, times the difference in the date divided by 250 in order to convert it into an annual number. So the forward price turns out to be $690.36. The spot price on termination turns out to be $730. The difference is what you'll end up getting as the profit. So it's the number of contracts times the difference in the price divided by 100 times D27, which is the number of contracts that you had, and that turns out to be the profit that you're going to make. In this worksheet, I'm showing you a simulation of the mechanics of the corn futures, and this particular simulated worksheet was created just to show you what happens with margin calls. In order to construct the prices for corn, what I did was I assumed that the price of corn does a random walk. So it takes the mean value as the previous day's price plus a volatility times a normal random variable. The volatility, which is given in cell H4, was computed using the volatility of the historical prices that I'm showing in the previous worksheet. So I used that volatility. I computed a simulation. For those of you who want to do this simulation again, you can just use F9 to create another simulation. So I'm generating several different simulations. In some cases you have margin calls, in some cases you don't, and so on. So let's consider a particular one which has a nice margin call over here, for example. So what happens in this particular case, it starts off with 690.25 with a margin account, makes a profit, the margin account increases, makes a loss, the margin account decreases, but still it's above the 1250 minimum margin or the maintenance margin that is required. Next day, it makes a loss further, and now it drops below the maintenance margin of 1250. So there's a margin call, and the investor is asked to make the margin account back to the initial margin. And the amount of money that they have to put in is $633. It makes a loss, but now the amount is still above the 1250. It's 1258, so there is no margin call. Then it makes a huge profit, and the margin account goes up, several losses, and in the very end there is a huge loss. It drops below and it has to make up back again, so you get $503 as the loss. And in this particular simulation run, the total profit and loss turns out to be minus $1,000. So you put in a margin account of 1688 plus 633, another margin call, plus 503. This was the total investment that you put into the margin account, and the net loss that you get was minus 1,000. So in this particular case, you did not make a profit, but you made a loss.